Hey, Restless Rappers, we have a lot to touch on with the murder trial this week, and it looks like there's a wedding coming up. So stay tuned for this week's Restless Rap.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, everybody, I'm Rachel Goodman here with another week of Restless Rap. We have so much to talk about with the trial and some other random things like a wedding between Summer and Kyle. We'll touch on that a little bit more in depth later. First, we're going to start with the trial, and I want to go ahead and give a shout out to all the fans in the chat who are listening live right now, and a very special birthday wish to Aaron. His birthday was on Friday, so happy belated birthday, Aaron. Thanks for being here today, and we hope you had a wonderful birthday. Thanks also to Gisela, Aaron, everybody who's in the chat right now. We've got a lot of people. Hubby Joe, we have Mary, Gisela, Brittany Duran's here, Nikisha Jones, Alyssa Brown Carlton, Melody Mofat, who actually said she hasn't been to a chat in a while. So welcome, Melody. It's really good to have you. And Susan Russo. I think I hit everybody, but if I didn't hit your name, feel free to leave a comment and I will read your comment and your name. One more set of comments before we move on here. As I've mentioned before, if you leave comments on last week's episode or last week, if you didn't get to watch live, I go through and I read the comments that people leave. And we had about 4 comments. So I just wanted to give those people a shout out and read their comments live on air. We had Joe Lewis. About 40 years ago, I believe we had a snapper in prison storyline. Nikisha Jones, great review, Rachel. Always love to hear your thoughts on the show. Cynthia Chain, OMG, Rey is super stupid when it comes to Mia. She plays him every time. What about the fact that Arturo overheard Mia confessing to Lola? I still do not trust him. Please let this JT storyline be over. We all know that he's alive. Summer is the match for Lola, but she will only do it if Kyle marries her. Well, Cynthia, you got a lot of those predictions absolutely right, as we're going to touch on this week. We have one more comment, though. Leanne Michelle Day, the person Jack was concerned about was Carrie, not Phyllis. He cares too much about her to use her in the plan to regain Jabot. And I thought about that comment, and I still, maybe I have to go back and rewatch it. Last week, I had made a comment along the lines of the fact that when all of this was happening and Jack said he didn't want to get involved with Billy and everyone trying to reclaim Jabot as the family business, Jack said, I have a lot of feelings for this person. I don't want to get mixed up in it. And it makes sense that he would have meant Carrie instead of Phyllis, but I was, it kind of sounded like he also sort of meant Phyllis because he does have feelings, well, maybe not romantic feelings that are active, but he has a deep history with Phyllis, so it makes sense that he wouldn't want to get in the middle between her and Jabot either, at least not last week. This week might be different, but let's go ahead and jump into the story, the trial and everything going on with that. We had a lot of different pieces coming together this week. We're finally getting to a head here in terms of what the resolution is going to be. We have not reached, the jury hasn't reached a verdict yet. We haven't gotten the sentencing or whether we haven't gotten the charges, if there will be charges at all. But basically, we kind of started with Phyllis in the beginning, who she obviously didn't mean to go as harshly as she did, but she got up and Christine examined her, or basically asked her these really tough questions that made the other 3 women look awful. And Phyllis tried not to make it sound like they really did all these terrible things, but Nick wasn't having it, and none of the other women were having it either, and they're never going to forgive Phyllis for this. That's just the end of the story. This is going to be the last straw between Phyllis and the Newmans, and that's that. We have a couple of comments here. Demo, Phyllis acting like she cares about the 3 women she sold out, so fake. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely fake. But at least we kind of hear that with Phyllis and everything, it wasn't like she had done it. She didn't do it vindictively, at least in that moment. It felt more like Christine was really pushing her. But at the same time, yeah, Phyllis only cares about Phyllis, and that's that. So it's kind of like a fine line there of I didn't know whether to be angry with Phyllis or to kind of just let it go because of the circumstances, considering they were in there because of Sharon. That's, the person who sort of ratted them out to begin with. And that does come up this week too with Rey, but we'll get there in a second. So Phyllis was we kind of start the week too with Phyllis and the testimony. And then we get to Michael, and Michael's basically telling Victoria and Nikki, hey, you know what? Like we need a different strategy here. That testimony, not good, not going to help. Poor Michael, he was brought in on this and had no idea what really happened. He's finding out the truth as the jury is hearing these stories. So Michael, if he had been my lawyer, they should have just told him the truth from the beginning. He probably would have helped them. He's clearly a good lawyer, but he couldn't help them without knowing really what had happened. He's not going to be the one to charge them with anything. So really, they should have just stepped up and said, yeah, by the way, this is the truth, but this is how we want to play this. And I get it, though, that Nikki originally didn't want Victoria's hands in this at all because she just wanted Victoria to be able to walk away and go free. But we saw this week too, Victoria is not really having the idea of Nikki going to jail, because that's what Michael's suggestion was. He would go to Christine and try to make some kind of plea deal, and he believed that he could get maybe Victoria getting off on some kind of probation, and that Nikki might go to prison for a very minimal sentence. So that's kind of what he was hoping, so they could just make this deal and be done with it. But Michael goes to Christine and she laughs at him. She's like, oh no, like I think why would I agree to any kind of bargain with you when I know, like, I can see the look in the jury's eyes. They are definitely not going to, they're not going to go easy on the women, because there's too many things coming out that are showing there's just too much coming out to show that they're not innocent in this, even if it was because of domestic abuse. Okay, so we see everything happening with Phyllis. We see that Michael comes in and tries to make the deal. Christine isn't having it. Meanwhile, Sharon's lawyer, Hodges, she's just really big on just trying to treat Sharon like, trying to get the jury to see that Sharon was separate in all this. And I guess that was, I'm not sure what to make of Hodges yet, because on the one hand, she does seem very sure of herself, and she seems like she has been around, like she's experienced with this, and she knows kind of how to not work the system, but just play the game, I guess. And, work these different angles that are going to help the best interest of her clients. But when we actually saw her get up there with Tessa and with Rey, it just didn't seem like it just wasn't very, like, she didn't seem to be that great of a lawyer to really hit the questions and really get a direct response from the people up on the stand. Rey, that's kind of where we sort of went to next this week, was that Rey came in with Mia. Of course, Mia was going to be there to hear him interrogated on the stand, but he comes in with Mia. Mia's sitting in the court, and she's just kind of observing this whole thing. And Hodges ends up interviewing Rey specifically because her goal is that she'll make it look like Rey is that Sharon admitted something to him, admitted that she had done this, that she'd been part of this murder because she was manipulated by Rey, who pretended that he cared about her, and kind of spin it in that angle. And Hodges was so convinced that she was going to get Sharon off on an acquittal based on this alone, because that's why they were there. And of course, Victoria and Nikki, they didn't know about Sharon telling Rey any of this. They obviously were angry about it, but they weren't as angry about Sharon as Phyllis, because here's the thing with Sharon, and I was kind of touching on this earlier. She doesn't do things, at least the Sharon that I know, that I've seen for the last, 2 years that I've been watching the soap. The Sharon that I've seen, she's not someone who does things to purposely hurt someone or to purposely get anyone in trouble. She always has a good heart about it, and so I think that Nikki and Victoria understand that too. And yeah, like they're not happy that Sharon told Rey, but they're also kind of feeling that it looks like they're kind of more understanding about it. Like, okay, well, we can't be as mad at Sharon as Phyllis, considering Phyllis made a deal with Christine where she wouldn't get in trouble. So, and Sharon, of course, is still up in being questioned along with Nikki and Victoria. So it's not like Sharon got out of anything. She is still going to be going through the same process as the other two women anyway. So she wasn't doing it to help herself per se. We have a couple of comments in here. Aaron Brody, this case is stupid. Alyssa Brown Carlton, there's nothing to prove the prosecution's case. That's true. At least they haven't mentioned any proof so far. Demo says Sharon needs to distance herself from the other women. Worry about yourself. Kenneth Clark, who would have thought Brittany the stripper is a lawyer? She's really good. Interesting. Demo, Hodges is better in custody cases, not murder trials. Hubby Joe, that was the best part. Mia hearing Rey loves Sharon. Gisela, Sharon foolishly loves Rey, blinded by the abs. And then Duelaman, Mia had the nerve to question Rey. Yeah, she did have the nerve. And that is a whole other thing we're going to get to in a moment here. So, pretty much at this point, Mia, while Rey is up being questioned, Mia hears Rey admit he loves Sharon, but even Rey, a man who claims that he's honest. Now, we've seen him do a couple of things that weren't so honest, but even Rey couldn't be honest when he was being questioned, not fully honest anyway. He didn't want to say that he loved Sharon in court and wanted to kind of play it his own way and spin it off in a manner that would not get him in trouble. And then on top of that, later on when they go back to their apartment and it's just Mia and Rey, Rey tries to act like he didn't really mean the words. And it's kind of like, okay, Rey, he is like, so, okay, I'm just going to say this. Rey always tries to act like he is this upstanding citizen and that he follows the rules and that, okay, well, someone broke a law. I need to arrest them. This coming from a man who clearly has his own issues. He's not honest with himself. Sometimes, even when he is honest with himself, he's not honest with other people. And you just don't yeah, maybe he wouldn't have slept with Sharon. Maybe not. Who knows what would have happened that night that he went to see her. I have a feeling he would have slept with her. But okay, so he didn't sleep with her. Fine, because of the circumstances. But he couldn't even go back to Mia and say, hey, I'm done. I have feelings for someone else. I told them, yeah, I'm not going to be with them, but I don't love you and I love someone else. He couldn't even be honest with Mia after that. Not that Mia deserves honesty. It's just coming from a man who tries to pretend like he's this upstanding gentleman and he's this honest person. Rey is not honest at all, and neither is Mia. But Rey trying to use the excuse of, well, I need to make things work with my wife because we're married, even though I don't really want to make things work with her. Using that excuse and then lying to her, he is doing exactly what she did to him, even if he wasn't actively cheating on her. So just throwing that out there that, at that point, Rey should have just said, hey, I want to divorce Mia, even if we're going to have a baby together. And before that, he wasn't, you could see that he was done with her. And then she lied about being pregnant and he changed his mind. But he just bugs me because he just tries to be he tries to come off, he tries to act like he is better than other people almost. and that he has this sense of morality that really isn't there, that he's not this great guy, not that he's bad, but he has his flaws, and for him to act like he's this guy who couldn't do bad things, and couldn't cheat and couldn't lie, it just is beyond me. Okay, so check in here with a couple of comments in the chat. Gisela, Rey should have protected Sharon like Nick would have. Aaron Brody, Rey is so fake. Jacob, hey Jacob. Hi Joe, I hope you're doing well tonight. Gisela, Doolaman equals they both love themselves, so it makes sense. Melody, I see no chemistry with Sharon or Mia. Maybe it's just me. The way I saw it from Rey was, at times in this whole storyline, was that he had feelings for both of them. Like, Mia did things to him that he couldn't fight, but then with Sharon, he was in the same situation. He loved her and couldn't fight that either. So I saw it like, okay, he has these feelings for both women, but he also tried to act like he was this man of duty. And maybe the fact that he only ever kissed Sharon. And that was another thing. When Christine confronted him after this testimony, she was like, you know what, I'm really pissed off about this. You shouldn't have gotten so close with Sharon. And Rey tried to play it off like nothing went against, nothing broke the nature of their professional relationship. And that's a lie too. We remember that they had a scene where they kissed, number one. Two, they slept in the same bed together, half naked. Two, that's another thing. Three, how close they got. It goes beyond just working professionally with someone. That is not a professional relationship, especially when you're working on a case. Especially from Rey's point of view, he brought Sharon on specifically because he knew she was connected to the Newmans somehow, and he wanted to get information. That's how this whole thing started. That's why he hired her. And so for him to act like he didn't do any of that, like it wasn't like that, oh no, I just brought her into work, like that's it. No, he is lying. And he was under oath for some of that too. So that's all I'm saying with Rey. I am not I don't like it when there's characters that try to act like, they're this perfect guy, a perfect person who can't do anything wrong and they always follow the law. But no. He broke the law because he lied under oath and kind of twisted the way that things actually happened. Doolaman, I think this is an early prediction here. Mia and Arturo will sleep together and she will get pregnant. I could see that happening. Okay, so moving along a little bit here. We have more with the trial, but because there's so much with the trial, I'm going to break it up and let's touch on Summer and Kyle. However, before we get to our next topic, we just wanted to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. For us to continue to grow, we could definitely use your help. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. But no matter where you are, leave us a comment so that we can get you involved in the conversation. I will definitely give you a shout out live on air. Being a part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us, and we truly appreciate you supporting us in doing what we love. Don't forget to tell your friends and keep enjoying our shows. And if you happen to like or follow right now, let me know and I will give you a shout out right now. Okay, so as I was mentioning before, we're going to talk about Summer and Kyle. If you're listening live right now and you wanted to call in and be part of the show, the number is 424-354-8302. If you're listening live, it's about 5:30 Pacific Standard Time on March 10th. If you're listening live, feel free to give us a call, or give me a call, I should say, and we'll get your thoughts. So Kyle and Summer, and at the top of the show, we were talking in the chat, and one of the things I asked was what people thought about Summer. We had some very choice comments. I'll read a couple of them now. We had, let's see. Mary, Summer is on my last nerve. A gal that has so much money and so desperate for Kyle. Did she think of Kyle when she slept with Billy? And that's the whole thing too. it was like, snap of a finger and suddenly Summer wanted Kyle. It just makes no sense to me. She's like ridiculously obsessed with Kyle, and I don't get it. We've got a caller on the line. Who's called in?
Hey, it's Max.
Hey, Max. So, what do you think of Summer and Kyle?
So I think it's really sad because like Summer, I wanted to be mad at Summer, but at the same time, like she hates herself. She really does not like herself because she's really trying to get with this guy that does not want her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been her theme. Like she did the same thing with Billy, like a man that didn't want her, pressured him, all this other stuff. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't get it. And even in that conversation, like I'm not gonna say it was all Summer's fault because Kyle agreed to it, and Kyle actually he's the
He
one that brought it up.
suggested it, yeah. But it's
He was
still
like, "Oh, I'll marry you." Like, why would you say that? Like, that was I was watching. I was like, Kyle, why would you say that? You know she likes you. Why, that's just such a mean thing to say.
And that's the thing with Kyle is that I agree with you. I don't blame Summer 100% because Kyle, he could keep pushing her away. I mean, now I get it. He has like a game to play because he wants Lola to live. But before this situation, he was still hanging out with Summer and he was still like, he knew what Summer wanted from him and he still let her into his life. So it is definitely not completely her fault, but the whole thing was so uncomfortable to watch.
It was so weird.
Yeah, and like
Especially when in front of Phyllis, when he was acting in front of Phyllis. I'm just like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, it was, and like you're right too. She did the same thing with Billy, and the moment that Kyle, because this is kind of where I see it going. They could do this whole fake, marriage thing if that's what they end up actually doing, and then I just feel like Kyle might fall for her again, maybe.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he does, she's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I want a divorce. Bye."
Yeah, just like because she really just wants what she can't have, and whatever she can't have, she goes after. And it's so sad because if you think about it, it's kind of dumb. I know Summer was a match, but I don't know what Lola's blood type is, but like she literally, it's impossible for her to not have someone out there that's not Summer that's a match.
Yeah.
You can find someone else that's a match. Unless it's like O, which is really rare. There are lots of O's out there. Like you can find someone that can donate to Summer, that's to donate to Lola.
And as someone, I'm sure too, there are ways to find people that you don't even know. I'm sure there's a system, like just without even
it
looking
doesn't
it
have
up.
to be Summer.
Yeah, exactly. And for Kyle to have been, like, I get what he's trying to do, and it makes sense from his part that he would do anything for Lola. But it's just such an awkward situation, and the fact is, like,
I don't know, like, and I said I felt bad for Summer, but at the same time, like, I'm also laughing at Summer because, like, he specifically said it would be a loveless marriage. He doesn't even want to, like he said, he doesn't want to do husbandly duties. Like, he doesn't want to touch her. He doesn't want to be with her.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, why she's making such a fuss out of this. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, and. Like it's gonna get very complicated, especially if Summer lives, and then they end up getting married.
Yeah, she could die.
She could die. I don't know why I'm laughing at this, but that must be.
I don't know. I was like, I guess I just assumed she would make it through the surgery.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course. Have a great week.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye. So, it's bad when the idea of a character dying makes you laugh. I'm just going to... And we've got another caller on the line. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Rachel, it's Jacob from Texas.
Hey, Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So...
Are we still talking about Kyle and Summer?
Yeah, we're talking about Summer and Kyle, unless you had anything else you wanted to say about the trial as well.
Well, it's mainly just about Summer and Kyle, but one thing about the trial thing, it would be good and it's dramatic, but since JT's alive, since spoilers are out there, this trial seems like it's dragging on. It's like the O.J. Simpson case all over again.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's just dragging on way too much.
Yeah,
but yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I definitely agree with you. I mean, we know this is kind of jumping ahead, but let's talk about this now. We know at the very end we had Nick and Billy talking about how they suspected that JT was alive, and it's so obvious he is. I mean, who else could have done those things with a security camera inside Victor's house? There's no
I
one.
know.
Yeah, it's so obvious he's alive. I don't know how he's gonna end up being alive, but he's there.
I don't know either.
We know that the actor's been on set, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's been like months, and they're like, "Oh, he's still dead." I'm like, "He's not dead." I know it's a soap, and things were different when they didn't have spoilers. But even if you don't read spoilers, it's hard to avoid them because they're all over social media. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way with something like that, when there's rumor that he's on set and that I've heard that the episodes with him are filming at the end of March. I don't know if that's right because that's just a rumor I've heard, but I feel the same way you do, that they're dragging the trial on for a purpose. And I said this last week, I'm going to say it again. I have a feeling that they're going to end up convicting Sharon, Nikki, and Victoria, and they're going to wind up in jail. But then it's going to turn out that JT's alive, and it's going to somehow, obviously they're going to get out of jail. But that's kind of what I have a feeling that's the direction they're going with this.
And then one more gripe about the trial, because I've been watching this on and off for like 20 years. The whole thing is, since, because it's still the young writer that other writers haven't started the area. First of all, Victor, there's no way that the character of Victor would just get thrown out of the courtroom and he's be gone for the whole trial. It's like the writer that was there previously just didn't like the character of Victor because Victor's nowhere to be found, and he that's not like Victor. He wouldn't get thrown out of the courtroom just for that, because he would be there for the whole trial. We haven't seen him on the very beginning, and then he's got, I don't know if he's not like in and out there or what. He just like disappeared. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Well, thanks, Jacob, for calling in.
You too. Have a great night. Keep up the great work, and I'll keep watching.
Awesome. Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we kind of touched on the end of the trial. What we haven't touched on yet, and this is pretty important, was everything that happened. We had two other things to really talk about with the trial. Everything with Tessa, and then Victoria's testimony. So let's touch on Tessa first, because without that, we're kind of not going to... It makes more sense to talk about how we got to Victoria. So we had Mariah and Tessa. Tessa was very concerned that they were going to, somehow this whole trial situation was going to get her involved, and that it would come out how she was involved with the women and blackmailing them. And so it comes out that basically, Mariah and Tessa are sitting there in Crimson Lights. They're trying to figure out their vacation plans. They end up deciding on San Francisco, which I thought was cute because obviously that was where they had their first kiss. Of course, this couldn't have been a soapier moment. As they're talking about everything about going on vacation, Tessa gets the call that calls her in, and she ends up going up on trial. And basically, Christine, she's done some reconnaissance. She went and she talked to Phyllis, who filled her in on everything she knew about Tessa, including, what we assume is that Phyllis told Christine about the kidnapping that Victoria, Nikki, and Sharon did to Tessa. As it turns out, later Phyllis admits she did not tell Christine any of that because she wasn't there. But Phyllis filled Christine in on enough information that Christine was able to extract a lot of information from Tessa. And that's what I'm going to say too, is that watching this case, what stuck out to me the most was how experienced Christine is as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, I should say. She is so experienced that she knows, everyone that she was up interrogating, she was very direct and aggressive about it. She also didn't get so, you couldn't see any emotion behind it either. It was just very direct and aggressive, and she knew how to get information from people. She also sensed certain things too. So, for instance, Tessa goes up there, and without Christine must have sensed that something deeper happened that night when there was an altercation between the women and Tessa, beyond what Tessa was telling her. And so Christine ends up just kind of guessing and assuming. And because Christine seemed so sure that something else happened, she kept asking Tessa about it. And then finally, when Tessa wouldn't admit anything happening, any kidnapping, Christine used reverse psychology to say, oh, well, then maybe you're the one who killed JT. Maybe it's all your fault. I'm starting to believe that they're right, that, you know, you were the one over them. And when Christine said that, Tessa flipped, like she flipped tactics, and she was like, oh, no. It was, they kidnapped me, and that's what happened, and they left me out in the cold, and like, such a sad story. And, yeah, that was, it did not look good for the women. It did not look good at all. Even Sharon, because Sharon was there, and Tessa said, well, Sharon she didn't seem to want to be part of it, but she was right there. So, yeah, for women on trial for murder, a kidnapping does not help their situation. Let's check in with the chat really fast. Melody, Tessa can go anytime now. Gisela, I love how Tessa only cares about herself, not her girlfriend's mom. Melody, poor Mariah. Demo, Tessa's still lying as usual. Aaron, Tessa is a con artist. Alyssa, Tessa knows more than she's saying. Yeah, I agree with that too. That was one of the theories we'd had before, that maybe Tessa's the reason why the body was dug out, or she helped JT, and the whole entire time it was some kind of scheme, because that was one of the questions Christine asked Tessa was, where were you that night? Can we really believe Tessa? She couldn't even think of a good answer. She stumbled over her words. So I'm thinking that she probably did lie, and then maybe somehow she had this whole thing planned with JT, and that they knew that, I don't know. I don't even know how it could have gone down that way, considering what JT was doing to Victoria. But maybe Tessa didn't know the full extent of his anger, and they had this all worked out, that she was going to go and help him. And that when it turned out they were burying him, she was watching somewhere and dug him out almost instantly, so that his body wasn't there much sooner. So maybe he was dug out like way before the other women even realized it. I think we're gonna find out soon, though, considering he's coming back. Gisela says Mariah needs some self-confidence, so she realizes she can do so much better. However, in a weird dream scene, I want to see Summer and Mariah together. Interesting. At least Summer, I don't even know if I want to finish that thought. At least Summer isn't a con woman. Yeah, she's manipulative though, so I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but she doesn't seem to be that much of a liar as Tessa. Who knows though? Okay, so we had everything with Tessa, which kind of leads into what happened with Victoria. After Tessa's, after Christine interrogated Tessa, Michael was like, you know what? Now we definitely need to send Victoria up there. Victoria gets up, and this was really hard to watch because she discussed everything with the emotional abuse. Everything that had happened that night came up. The full truth was told by Victoria, so they got to hear it. And one of the things I really liked is that Michael, before he sent Victoria up, the line was, "We're going to put domestic abuse on trial." And I feel like that was very important because that's where this storyline started. And I'm going to say this again. I feel like I say this every time I talk about the JT storyline, but I wish that they would have focused more on the domestic abuse aspect of it, because that was the important lesson. And they don't, I feel like even if 500 shows were doing a storyline on domestic abuse, that's not too many, because it's showing what things can be like, and the chances, the more that it's out there, the more likely it can help someone who's going through the same situation. The more likely that someone else can realize, hey, it's not me, I shouldn't be treated this way. And so that to me was a failure on Y&R's part, because they should have, like, they handled everything leading up to the murder situation very well. Like, it was just very realistic what they had happening to Victoria. As soon as they got away from as soon as they got away from the lesson and from everything that Victoria was going through and made it more about, oh, well, you know, we murdered this guy, we need to cover it up, you lost it, because we needed to see the trauma associated with not murdering someone, but with going through domestic violence and abuse, going through emotional abuse, going through all these things. She went through it for months, at least months. I don't think it was like a year, but it was still a long enough time where it's going to leave a permanent mark, to the point where her next relationship, her relationship with friends, everything changes after you go through something like that. And we should have seen the after effects on that, not what happened from murdering someone in self-defense. Okay, I've said that so many times, so just had to say it again. But the whole point is that at least when she went up and she had the chance to talk about what had happened to her, at least the domestic abuse came front and center again. And for a moment, we got to see some of the things that she went through, and just having her talk about it, it seemed like it helped her character. It seemed like it helped even people in the room who are hearing this. One of the things that actually really angered me, though, is the way that Christine handled it. And I get that she's a prosecutor, but when she was interviewing Victoria, one of the things she said, interrogating, one of the things Christine said was, well, he hit you once before, he did this to you once before, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you get out of the relationship? Why didn't you, like, kick him out then? Oh no, it does not work like that. And that made me so mad that at least Victoria was able to kind of defend herself, but it made me angry that someone put her in a situation where they were questioning why she wouldn't kick someone out faster. And Victoria even said, and this is probably the quote that stood out to me the most this week, Victoria saying, well, you don't know what it's like until you've been in that situation. And Victoria couldn't have said it better. So just that, the way that Victoria held her own, even against someone who was questioning her situation and questioning why she couldn't have gotten out of a bad situation without even understanding why you get trapped in that. Just, bravo to Victoria for being able to stick up for herself in that moment, regardless of what happens with the trial. I feel like even if Victoria wasn't on trial, there would be a Christine, and there would be someone saying, hey, well, why didn't you just leave the guy? Why didn't you just move on? Why didn't you just get out of the situation? It is never that easy. So I do like that they had that exchange, because we got to see Victoria standing up for herself and saying all the right things about people not understanding unless they've been there. So on that note, I think it's time for our lull moment. This is right after the plea deal, or there wasn't a plea deal, right after Michael tried to get a plea deal for Victoria and Nikki. When he went to Christine, she denies him. And then right as Michael's putting a mint in his mouth, and then Hodges comes out and she goes, I can see that went well. And then Michael's response is he crunches on the mint. Just the way that they handled that, I thought was hilarious. So that was my law moment. Let's touch base with the chat again before we hit on some predictions and then wrap up. Demo, yes, the domestic abuse is lost in the storyline. Agree, Rachel. Yeah, I definitely agree. Well, I agree with you agreeing with me. How about that? Aaron Brody, this whole storyline is dumb. Nothing even makes sense. Susan Russo, yes, they dropped the ball on domestic abuse. Nikisha, agreed, Rachel. Bob Castro, I loved Summer. Wouldn't ever want her to die. Sorry, I'm late with that. Summer's made a lot of horrible mistakes, but I believe she can be redeemed. Yeah, I think so too at this point with Summer. I think someone like Mia is more in the situation where she's not going to be redeemed. But like Summer, yeah, I think she could be redeemed. She hasn't done anything that bad yet. Aaron Brody, Christine and Paul caused this whole thing. They should be on trial, yeah, because if we remember, they wanted JT to be undercover investigating Victor. So yeah, let's put them on trial. Alyssa Brown Carlton, they need a psychologist to testify. They do. They should bring in, if it isn't, a conflict of interest, they should bring in Victoria's psychologist or psychiatrist, I think she is, as a witness, just because luckily they used her notes that she kept during her sessions with Victoria, but maybe they could bring her in anyway. Demo, them questioning Victoria abuse is typical. When abuse is not reported, people assume you're lying, which is unfortunate. Yeah, they definitely do. And people in general, I've noticed people who have been abused, a lot of times they have more to. There are so many people that don't understand the situation who are on the outside, and they can be judgmental over it because they don't understand what's going on behind closed doors. Bob Castro, I hope that Paul comes back soon. I also hope that Nikki and Victoria go free. This has been happening long enough. Alyssa Brown, someone needs to bring up that they brought JT in to spy on Victor. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, Alyssa, exactly that part. JA, hi everyone, late arrival. Hey Rachel, did I miss the calls? Yeah, unfortunately, we're not taking calls anymore, but if you tune in next week, we will take calls again. And Gisela says, bring in Olivia Benson. So, on that note, let's hit on our predictions really quickly.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I think that I think they're all going to get charged with murder. I think it's going to be a collective thing. Maybe Nikki will get first degree, and maybe the other two will get assist. Or I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly how it works, just a little tiny bit. But maybe Nikki will get first degree, and the others will get whatever, something lesser, I guess, just for assisting or being there. Involuntary, maybe, I don't know. So I have a feeling that the three of them are going to get charged. They're all going to go to jail. And that JT, it's gonna be like this renegade mission between Billy and Nick, and maybe Victor too, but especially Billy and Nick, since we saw them talking. But I feel like it's gonna be this mission that they're gonna do on their own to try and find JT, since they pretty much know he's alive. They're going to somehow find him. Maybe they won't even find him in Genoa City. Maybe one of them or all of them will leave, and we'll see this. We'll see them go off set, or not off set, but off, out of Genoa City, which we do sometimes see. And eventually they'll find him somehow, or JT, who's obviously been around watching them, will be right in Genoa City, and they'll find him, and they'll kill him themselves, and then we'll have another murder trial. Or maybe they'll just bring the body in and they'll let the other women go. So, on that note, thank you all for tuning in to this week's Restless Wrap. My name's Rachel Goodman. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Rach Goodman. We also have a Restless Wrap Facebook page at Restless Wrap. If you go over to Facebook and you like and follow that page, I always post the link to the show. And if you comment, I will read your comments live on the next show. As well as if you're not watching live, if you're watching after the fact, feel free to leave a comment in, just a regular comment. And I always go back and I check them before the next show, and I'll read your comments live on the air. Thank you all for tuning in. See you next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.